Alright guys, welcome to the next video. For today we're going to be talking about literary devices, and a lot of you guys had some really awesome questions for me yesterday, and I've made a list of a few of these. The first one that I want to deal with is this one, which has been giving a lot of people, I'm hoping you guys can see it, issues. This is called an epigraph. Okay, so an epigraph may look like a scary word at first, but let's just calm down a second, and you'll notice that this word is Greek sounding, and in Greek, epigraph comes from this word, epigraphy, or epigraphy in English is also an English word, which means simply an inscription. Okay? So an inscription is usually something that is used even in statues or anything like that to tell you what you're looking at, and gives you the theme of essentially what the artist or what the author is trying to project. So where do you find epigraphs? You will find epigraphs usually at the beginning of a document. So let's say we're starting off an essay, and you find a quote that you were looking at in your research really interesting, and you think that it really encompasses your work. So you may want to put that quote at the very start of your introduction, just like at the very top by itself, to kind of get people going. In poetry or in other written accounts, authors will usually insert an epigraph in a document where they think a paragraph or a point will be better made by some other work. So they will write it in using italics, so that very, I'm going to try to write it a little bit bigger. Okay. Trying to write a little bit bigger there for you. So yeah, using italics to separate the epigraph from the actual sentence. When you go in plays or see movies, you'll see tons of epigraphs. So for example, in Hollywood posters, you will find a phrase from a line in the movie. So like James Bond is really great at it. Never say die or die another day. That would probably be an epigraph that describes an entire film. We also see epigraphs used in other movie titles, even in books. So for example, Twilight, New Moon. Twilight could be an epigraph in this case. Same thing with Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring is not part of the title. The Lord of the Rings is, but the Fellowship of the Ring is kind of telling you, hey, this is an epigraph. This is a title that describes what this entire book is about, The Fellowship of the Ring. So again, don't be afraid of this word. Epigraphs, remember, coming from the Greek word epigraphy, meaning inscription. So an inscription placed at the beginning of a document that summarizes or lets the reader know, hey, this is what this section of the book is about. Anyways, I hope this was helpful for you, and that now you understand epigraphy a little bit better. If not, please send your questions in the comments below, or put them up on Google Classroom, and I'll be very happy to answer them for you. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome to the next component of the literary devices that you guys had questions for yesterday, and this deals with euphemism. That's right, it is another Greek sounding word, you guessed it, and it comes from the Greek word euphemia, which means well, or good, in this case, good omen. That's right. So in other words, if you have a word in your sentence or in your idea, it may sound a little bit bad or derogatory or could discriminate potentially. You may want to change it to some other type of word that can still convey the same meaning but be a little bit less offensive or a little bit less impactful. Examples of this would be, instead of saying blind, the blind person. Okay? We want to, for example, substitute that for visually impaired. I think words that give students a lot of anxiety, like tests or exams, that's a big one. What kind of euphemism do you think we can find for those that make it a little bit less, I guess, impactful? So we could say, instead of tests or exams, assessment. We will have an assessment next week. Sounds, I think, a little bit better than we will have an exam next week or we'll have a test next week. So once again, a euphemism is any word, okay? It could even be a phrase too, but any word in your readings or in literature that is used to make something that sounds bad kind of good. So let's say this one as the last point, since we're on COVID-19. Instead of saying disease, okay, which sounds very yucky, right? We could just say ailment. Okay? Same thing, ailment, meaning you're feeling sick, but it is a little bit less negative than disease. So again, hope this makes a little bit more sense. Euphemism coming from the Greek word eupheme, which means good omen, a word or phrase substituting a bad word, but still meaning the same thing. Once again, thank you so much for watching this, and again, leave your comments down below if you still have a question on the euphemism, and I'd be happy to answer it for you. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome to the next part of our literary devices. The third one that you guys found very difficult was this one, allusion. Okay. Allusion simply means making references to something that a lot of people, or well, at least we're hoping a lot of people in a particular culture will recognize. So we're Canadian, and I think the biggest thing we're expecting everybody to recognize is hockey. Okay. So we could, for example, say, instead of saying something like, as the final minutes ticked down in his exam, he worked harder. Obviously, that's not really effective and perhaps kind of dull. So to spice it up, we could say, you know what? Let's make an allusion to hockey. So for example, for him, the last minutes of writing the exam was like sudden death overtime. Okay, so that sudden death overtime is an allusion to a period in hockey, in this case, overtime, that anyone reading this would recognize. My goodness, that must have been a very difficult few minutes for him, or the last few minutes of an exam. So allusion, hockey. I think in the video that I sent you, Lazarus was used as an allusion, or he was used as an allusion to indicate somebody, for example, being so sick, but the very next day, like Lazarus, he was whole again, or he was feeling better again. Once again, this is used for the reader to realize, oh yeah, like Lazarus, he was about to die, or he was already dead, or he was deemed to be dead, and all of a sudden the next day, boom, he's fine. So these are called allusions. In other words, themes or people that are used to convey a better message, or to give you guys a better illustration of what the writer is trying to say. Hockey, great example. For us Canadians, I don't think if this allusion would work very well for, let's say, countries that don't have hockey. I'm thinking mostly about, Central Africa, where there's the desert, or South America, would probably not get this. So again, when using allusions, be very, very aware of who you're writing for. If you're writing for a specific audience, and that audience recognizes this, then your allusion will make sense. However, if not, you may find yourself being swamped with tons of emails and letters from readers. What do you mean by sudden death overtime? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. And again, leave your comments down below if allusion is still something that you want me to explain or go over one more time. But thank you so much for watching, and see ya. All right, guys, welcome to the next part of the literary devices lesson. This one is on imagery. So the way to imagine how imagery works in literature is to pretty much read an entire phrase. Let's say that I want to describe how something looks, tastes, smells, or feels to the touch. I will be using imagery, which is a tool or device that when you read it will make you imagine how it feels, how it tastes, how it smells, whatever I'm trying to describe. In other words, imagery employs your five senses. So let's say I get a paper cut. Now, I could say, I got a paper cut, and I could say my character in the story got a paper cut and he was crying. Technically, you know why he's crying and you know that he's got a paper cut, but I didn't use any imagery there to make you imagine, make you feel a part of the story. In other words, I want you to really be sympathetic to the character getting a paper cut. How do I do it? Well, I have to be able to describe how it feels to get a paper cut. So in other words, due to the sharp sting of the paper cut, he cried. Notice the sharp sting gets you to imagine the feeling that you get, one of your five senses, when you get a said paper cut. Let's say I had a really delicious cheesecake. Actually, you know what? I don't think you guys maybe you do like cheesecake, but I think ice cream is the better bet. So let's say I had really good gelato at Piazza Navona in Rome, and I wanted to be able to describe how it tastes. How do you describe that? Well, you could say it tastes great. That hardly tells the reader anything. So you could say the sweet, tangy accents of fresh strawberries intermixed with banana and cream made my taste buds explode when I bit into my gelato. That is a little bit more vivid, gives you a little bit more imagery when it comes to describing how something tastes. Restaurants do it all the time, especially when you look at a menu of a very, like really posh restaurants. They will tell you, hey, here's a creme brulee, and then they'll put some really nice imagery on the bottom to help you describe that creme brulee. And the description of it is going to make you want to buy it. In other words, it's going to engage one of your five senses so you can imagine how that tastes. So once again, imagery is a literary device used by authors to not just tell you what happened, but to get you to imagine how it felt, how it tastes, how it smelled, depending on the intention of the author. So again, hopefully this makes a little bit more sense for you. If not, leave your comments down below. Let me know if imagery is still something that we need to go over. And if not, I hope you found this helpful, and we'll pick up on that when we get to our narrative writing. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.